Hello, my beautiful mango friends, and welcome to this episode of Opening the Door to Magic. I'm so excited to be here. I'm recording this from Greece, from my perfect Airbnb in such a cool neighborhood downtown in the city. We are in transit between living in Israel. I've been living in Israel for almost 10 years to doing a year trial in the US. I'm going to give birth in the US. We're heading into JFK tomorrow. And we decided to do 6 days of transit time in Athens to take a break from all the hustle of packing our house, packing our boxes, moving the cats, like moving everything, to the hustle moment of like, oh my God, we just landed in our new life. And so we're a little bit in no man's land right now. And we're treating this like a baby moon, also like a working holiday. We took a couple work days out of the deal, and plus, just really a time to do nothing, like with no pressure to be tourists or to see anything specific, just really following what feels good for us and what our bodies want. And I personally feel that I am preventing illness by doing this. Like it is taking down a huge sense of overwhelm that I was feeling, and I'm not feeling nearly as overwhelmed as I was before. And I think taking these 6 days in a neutral country, I've never been to Greece before, so it just feels like super neutral to be able to let go of what was and welcome in what is coming. So I'm really excited for what's coming. And I know that this baby wants to be born in the US, but I also feel that she really wanted to have those first few months in utero in Israel. I think it was very, very significant. And part of that significance was about the mangoes and also the oranges, which I'm going to get into very shortly. I'm going to talk all about mangoes. Before that, I just want to share a little fun tidbit from my time in Greece. So, I've been desperately needing a haircut. My hair has been so long and getting super knotty, and I've always had a problem with knots. I just realized that my mom used to struggle with my knots in my hair as a kid. And my whole life, I've been struggling. I mean, I went to Bali once, like 12 years ago, and we were swimming in the ocean, surfing every day. And so at some point, I just stopped brushing my hair for like a week, and it became an absolute rat's nest dreadlock. And we went to Lombok Island, and I got so sick of my hair that I thought, like, all right, we just need to go into a salon. I'm going to pay some ladies to just brush out my hair. I ended up paying $5 for two women to spend an hour brushing out my hair. Like this is my saga with the knots in my hair. And it didn't happen that bad this time, but it was just getting to the point where every single day I was battling dreadlocks. So I decided to get it cut. And I went to this little salon and it had good reviews on Google. So I decided to go for it, even though the woman didn't speak a word of English. And that can be dangerous when getting your hair cut. But I had faith. I felt this was my spot. This is where I'm going. I showed up at 6 p.m. for my appointment, and I had three women working on my hair, brushing it out together, making fun of the knots. I couldn't understand what they were saying, but I could feel that part of things. And yeah, it was a great experience. At some point, I decided to close my eyes and use my imagination for good. And I closed my eyes and I felt so much appreciation and love for these women for pampering me. And I started imagining that they were Greek goddesses and we were in an ancient Greek temple, and they were, tending my hair and tending my body. And they were speaking these beautiful blessings. I couldn't understand a word they were saying, right? So every word they were saying, I was imagining that it was a prayer over my head and a blessing for me and my family and my daughters and my divine soul's journey on this lifetime. And it was just beautiful. At some point, they realized I was pregnant, and like they were pointing to my belly because I was holding my belly at some point, and they were pointing at it, and I was like, "Yeah, baby." They were like, "Oh, bravo, bravo." That's the only thing I could understand. They were excited about that. So, sometimes the most magical experiences and the magical doorways exist during a haircut or during the most basic moments of life, during eating a mango. So this episode is really a doorway into the magic of mangoes And the way that I've experienced them throughout my life, especially one specific experience that I had, which I've been really dying to share with you here on the podcast. But really, anytime I eat a mango, it's like a magical experience for me. And this is my homework assignment for you if you choose to take it, is to kind of choose like what experience are you deciding that will always be magical for you because you decided that it's going to be magical for you? Is it eating strawberries? Is it walking your dog? Is it like every time you see a spruce tree, or every time you look up at the clouds, you choose to decide that there's magical shapes and magical creatures floating in the clouds above you and blessing you? So, mangoes are the king of fruits, the jewel of the earth. And it's actually known, mangoes are known to be the king of fruits throughout many traditions in our world. And I was really curious of why. So I dove down the rabbit hole of researching mangoes. So in this episode, you'll also get like facts about mangoes and how they're cultivated and where they grow and the different types of mangoes, as well as my personal stories of my life with mangoes. So they were the king of fruits. And why is that? Because actually royalty really prized mangoes throughout all of Asia. The Tibetan, the Chinese, the Indian royalty would actually give mangoes as gifts to their most highly esteemed, people or connections. So giving the gift of a mango was like giving a jewel, was like giving, a diamond or some sort of very, very prized item. And people would cultivate mangoes and judge them based on the color and the shape and the smell and the texture, and really just keep cultivating the ones that were the tastiest and the most beautiful. And so that's been going on for actually 4 to 6 thousand years that we've been cultivating mangoes. It's one of the most distinctly cultivated fruit in the world. And there are 69 species of mangoes. So 68 of them are wild and are eaten by elephants and other, animals that eat like fruit. And they're very, very fibrous and not so flavorful. So those 68 species are not cultivated for human culinary purposes, but the one species, Mangifera indica, is the one that's cultivated widely and has such a rich diversity of over 1,000 cultivars. And I learned this because when I got to my house in Pardes Chana, when I moved out of Tel Aviv, I moved north. The house that we found had a mango tree in it, and the mangoes were some of the most delicious mangoes that I've ever had in my life. And they had a very distinct coconut flavor. And I was blown away. I didn't realize that mangoes could have this diversity in their flavors. And I now understand that there's over 1,000 of these different cultivars of mangoes that are, prized for different reasons. There's smaller ones, there's bigger ones, but they're all under the same species. So I really saw this mango tree in my yard when I lived for 3 years in that house as a gift from the land, a gift from Mother Nature, a gift from God. Really, I was like, thank you. I would get on my knees and touch the earth and like bow to the mango tree. Seriously, because I was just in awe and so grateful. It's like, imagine that someone just gave you a huge mango tree that produced way more mangoes that you could possibly eat every year. And we would freeze them and we would have mango smoothies all year long. I mean, imagine that someone just gave you that. It's like the best gift you could ever receive, or at least for me. And I was so, so happy and so grateful. And it even became a center of my spiritual practice, like observing how this tree creates these fruits and how magical it is. And I would imagine I would do shamanic journeys to my mango tree. And I was actually taken inside to the mango tree temple inside, and what kind of energies are inside of there, this energy of nourishment, of beauty, of enjoying life, of this this seed that fits perfectly in your mouth and you can suck on it, and it just like creates this sensual experience. And so the mango is also very sensual. It's very connected to all the senses. And so it turns us on to being on earth. And so I eventually used that image, that place of the temple of the mango tree in my course, in my sacred business codes course, where that was our central meeting place. And every time we would meet, because online courses, aren't don't have a central location. So it's really powerful when you're teaching an online course or when you're taking an online course, if every single meeting the instructor takes you back to your kind of like temple base or your home base in a vision or even just in a few words, like, all right, guys, we're back in the mango tree temple. Let's do this. And by even saying that, you have this power of association where you start to remember the things you've learned, and the things that you're wanting to learn come back in new levels and new ways. And I actually fell in love with mangoes when I was a kid. My parents would take us to Mexico for, an all-inclusive resort family vacations. And I mean, I'm sure we did a lot of cool excursions and we, had a lot of experiences. I know my mom took me parasailing. We went to Chichen Itza, but my most powerful memory was the mangoes at the buffet, at the morning breakfast buffet. And what I would do would be I'd fill my bag with like 3 or 4 of these huge mangoes, and I'd have them throughout the day, and I'd go to the beach and I'd sit there and cut them open or like peel them open, or I'd experiment with different ways of eating them. I didn't really know how to eat them. Nobody taught me how to do it. And I would just enjoy and savor this crazy fruit. And I was probably 9 years old, 8, 9, 10 years old. So I fell deeply in love with the king of fruits, and started to, yeah, forge my lifelong connection. These fruits originate in tropical rainforest in warm temperatures and monsoonal rain. So places like northeastern India, Myanmar, and the Andaman Mountains are where they come from. However, now they're cultivated all over the world, including in Mexico, Thailand, anywhere where there's a warm climate where there will be monsoons. And what's amazing is in Israel, they're also cultivating mangoes um, without any monsoons. It's basically a desert climate, an arid climate there. But because Israel has developed such a high tech um, irrigation drip system, that they're able to easily cultivate tropical fruits there. And it's actually becoming easier and easier to cultivate tropical fruits in Israel, including pineapple now, because of climate change, because of it's getting warmer there all the time. They are actually a part of the cashew family. Did you know that? Mangoes and cashews are related, as well as pistachio, sumac, and poison ivy. They're all in the same family of plants. So if you don't know that, you have the species. So you have 69 species, and that's all in a genus. And a genus will be related to other genus. So you have the mango genus, and then you have like the cashew genus, and then you have the pistachio genus, and they're all in the family of genuses, right? So then you have your 69 species of mangoes, and they're all considered mangoes. Okay. So just so you know, like that genealogy thing, I was like, I had to refresh myself around like, wait, if something is a different species, like aren't they in the same family? But they're not. They're in the same genus. Okay. All right. As long as we got that, we're good. So when I was in Australia, that's when I got my second kind of like level of love for mangoes. And if you want to hear more about my trip and journey through Australia, you can check out the Allow Me to Introduce Myself episode. I think it's episode number 3 from the Sunshine Codes. It's the same podcast as this one. And I talk about how I traveled around the world and how I spent a year in Australia and then even came back for another 6 months. Um, And it was over there that where I finally learned the best way to cut mangoes, which is, cutting it in basically thirds. And then you have those two halves that you get plus the seed in the middle. And those two halves you make like a little grid and then you flip it inside out and then you can eat them like little squares. So that became like my go-to method of eating mangoes. However, when you're on the beach and you don't have a knife with you, you have to resort to eating it like an apple, which you can eat the skin of a mango. And if you eat it like an apple, it's absolutely the most sensual experience you can have. I mean, it will drip all over you. It will become an absolute mess. But if you're at the beach, you can just jump in the water and it's okay. But I mean, I remember having a special experience with a mango where I was by myself and I felt like I was having sex. Like I just felt like I am making love with this mango. And I bought a mango, went by myself to the beach, was decided I'm going to have this magical experience with this mango. I sit there and I'm making sweet love with it. And I look up and I kid you not, a humpback whale jumped out of the water and did a flip. Okay. This is what happens when we decide to make our life magical. This kind of stuff. You can't make this up. Like I swear to God, I did not make that up. I looked up and a humpback whale made a flip and I was by myself and I was like almost peeing my pants. Like I was like, who do I tell? I need to tell someone. I didn't have time to like get out a camera, even though at the time I didn't even have a smartphone. Like I had no way of documenting this. So I literally had to like just extend my love making love with a mango. Now I'm making love with the ocean by watching this whale. And I'm just being so divinely gifted and blessed with this presence right now. And that moment of the mango and whale connection started my whale love story, especially with the humpback whales. And I will most definitely do an episode about whales soon. I really wish that I had an experience to share with you that I actually swam with whales, but I don't have that yet, but I will one day. So I'm putting it right here that that's going to happen one day. But anyway, so the whale came and blessed my mango experience and was like, girl, you keep doing that. You are on the right path. You are doing the right thing. You make love with that mango. You make love with the earth. Like you keep going. Oh my goodness. So as I was going down the rabbit hole of mangoes, I realized that there's a huge cultural and religious significance in mangoes as well. So we talked about the royalty and mangoes being, high quality gifts that a king could give to, another king to show their allegiance or something like that. But we also have mango as sacred symbolism in religious and cultural texts. So let's give some examples. You want some examples? So we have Hinduism. Mangoes are mentioned in the Vedas a lot. The Vedas are the ancient Hindu scriptures, and they even predate Hinduism. The Vedas are even pre-yoga. So Hinduism only came later, but it's sourced from the Vedas, the spiritual teachings of the ancients through the Vedic texts. So, according to the Vedas, the mango tree is sacred. It's a symbol of prosperity, love, and fertility. And its leaves are used widely in Hinduism in ritual and ceremony as a symbol of, like I said, prosperity, love, and fertility, especially. How magical is that? Like they would take mango leaves from the tree and see it as such a gift from the universe, as a gift from Mother Nature, as a gift from God Himself, as a gift of love, a gift of fertility and prosperity. Like all is well. You are taken care of. This planet has everything you need. This planet comes with gifts bearing to you, human. It's a gift to be human on this earth. Here are the bountiful presence of Mother Nature. So they would take that and they recognize that in nature and said, okay, let's make ceremony from this. Let's support women in their fertility journey with the leaves of the mango. Let's support sacred union with the leaves and the fruits of the mango because we're remembering that frequency of love. We're remembering that core frequency of what it means to be alive. That being alive is fertile, being alive is prosperity, being alive is love, right? And so mangoes just bring that reflection back to us. They're simply a mirror. They're a mirror to a truth of our being, of our aliveness. All right, let's go to Buddhism. So in Buddhism as well, mangoes are super sacred. They're likened to the sustenance that we get from rich spiritual teachings. So when we're reading spiritual texts and we're like filled up, we're not doing it from an ego place. We're not doing it from a place to prove ourselves, but we're reading scripture to absorb the mystical knowledge from our ancestors, from the enlightened ones, from the beings who understood in depth, the reason for being here on earth and the heart of humanity. And we're reading these mystical texts and we feel nourished, right? Does it ever happen to you that you're reading, I don't know, the Bible or the Bhagavad Gita or the Tao, and you just feel like, okay, life is good, like everything's okay. Everything's gonna be okay. It's like that's the kind of nourishment that we receive from the mystical texts and empowers us to be ourselves. It empowers us to be human and to give our gifts to the world, to be of service to the world. And so mangoes were seen as the same thing, a symbol of this deep nourishment that we receive from being alive so that we can then go and share our gifts with the rest of the world. And in some depictions, the mango tree is actually drawn as the tree of life in Buddhism. It's like they're like, this is the ultimate symbol of the tree of life, how life keeps on giving, how life is abundant, how life is beautiful. All right, and then let's go to Jainism. So Jainism is more of a niche religion. It's a smaller religion in India and other parts of Asia. And one of their main spiritual teachings is ahimsa, or non-harming. And you'll find that also in yoga and in Hinduism. But for the Jainism, it's like very much non-harming. They're famous for being vegetarian, vegan, really just like stepping lightly on the earth. And so um, as ahimsa being the most, important quality to embody as a human, the non-harming, the non-violence, the walking lightly, the generosity of being, that the mango is really seen as like the mango tree was seen as an example of how to live, of how to embody ahimsa, that you actually get to keep on giving. You keep giving these amazing fruits without sacrificing anything from yourself. So the ultimate ahimsa is to be able to be so deeply generous without sacrificing anything from yourself. And that is exactly what the mango tree does, right? He's like so generous with these beautiful fruits that are beyond what the heck? Where did this come from? It's from Earth. Okay, whoa. Giving us these beautiful fruits and he's not getting hurt by giving it to us. He's not lacking anything by giving this fruit to us. And isn't that beautiful? Like, how can we in our lives be so giving that, like, that's just part of our nature and that it actually is good for us to release our mangoes? It's actually good. It actually feeds us to let go of things, to give. And I think about this podcast like that, like as I'm stepping more into just like, okay, I'm talking about whatever I want to talk about. And if somebody is like really wants to open the door to magic and they listen to any episode, they're gonna like, live a more magical life, even if it's just a little bit or even if it's a lot. And I find that the more I just allow myself to express what I want to express here with little judgment and perfectionism and more just like free flow and vulnerability and truth and honesty, and the easier it is to record and produce these episodes. And the more I get back, the more I get back. So it's like that is another way in our lives to open the door to magic, is to like do the thing that you do best, which is being you. Just be you. Don't be anything that you think you're supposed to be. Let go of those judgments of like your character Like we don't need to be the warriors all the time. We don't need to be like like the saviors of the earth all the time. We actually just need to be ourselves all the time. So that's what this podcast is all about for me. So thanks for being here with me. Um, as I said, 4 to 6 thousand years ago, we were cultivating mangoes. They were cultivated all over Asia, slowly, slowly. And then in the 16th century, Portuguese explorers brought mangoes from Asia to Africa, Portugal, and then Brazil and the Americas. So that was all happening in the 16th century. So only in the last few hundred years have we had mangoes in North and South America. Um, Before that, you couldn't get mangoes here. But now, Mexico is a huge producer of mangoes, as well as Peru and Ecuador. But guess who are the world's largest producers of mangoes? Well, it's India. That's the first one. Then we have China, Thailand, Indonesia, and the Philippines. Thank you, guys. Thank you, all of you countries, for keeping producing mangoes. And there's actually been a huge movement in these countries to help continue the wild species of mangoes as well. So even though they're not cultivated on farms, they are reintroduced to habitats that maybe have been damaged. And so there is a worldwide movement as well to restore all of the species of mangoes, which is really cool. And just some fun facts before I get into the like meaty, juicy mango story of this podcast. So the US is the largest importer of mangoes. Who would have guessed? The biggest consumer country in the world is also the biggest consumer of mangoes. Or maybe not the biggest consumer, actually. India is the biggest consumer, but we're the biggest importer in the US. And they import from Mexico, Peru, and Ecuador. And worldwide, there were 60 million tons of mangoes produced in 2022. That is estimated to be, which I did the math on this, 267 billion mangoes were distributed in 2022. The market is over $70 billion and it's expected to reach 90 billion by 2028. But I did the math on that. So if you have 267 billion mangoes a year, guess how many mangoes that are for every person? Every person gets 33 mangoes a year. That's pretty good. You know, I learned that mangoes are not something that you want to be eating all year round. Even though I would have smoothies and like put mango in my smoothie in the wintertime and stuff in Israel, I realized that when I had the mango tree, and I would actually, after I didn't have the mango tree anymore, because we moved, I would order boxes of mangoes from like local producers. And after the summer's over and you like indulge in mangoes and you have 1, 2, 3 mangoes a day, 3 mangoes a day is a lot, but like one is a good amount to have all summer long per day, you're good. Like after the season's over, it's like you don't really want mangoes anymore, you know? And so having actually 33 mangoes or less a year, like 20 mangoes a year per person, is perfect. So we are in abundance, you guys, like 33 mangoes a person for all 8 billion people on our planet. And there are some weirdos who don't like mangoes. And I'm not sure if I trust those people. I'm still skeptical about anybody that doesn't like mangoes. So if you're listening to this and you actually don't like mangoes, let's talk. Tell me why. Can I get to know you? All right. So now that we are like friends and buddies with this fruit, we go back to mangoes as a symbol of prosperity and love and fertility, given as gifts from the wealthy, gifted to the river goddess in many traditions. They're sent down the river, a beautiful mango in India, sent down the river during a puja at sunset on a banana leaf floating in the sparkling water as part of this ritual festival of giving back to the earth mother, giving back to the mother water, to revel in the mystery of life and the gifts that we've received here. feeling the ancient temples where mango trees were planted to enhance the prosperity of the temple and the fertility of the women in the temple and the fertility of the soil around the temple. They're eaten as a part of ritual meals across Thailand during the Krathong festival and placed on altars at Diwali. And in Ayurveda, mangoes are used to balance digestion and promote purity in the body. Mangoes help purify the blood and digest your food. Isn't that so cool? All right. So this summer, I was at a retreat and I was serving as priestess at the retreat. It was the very first time I've been paid to be a priestess on a retreat. I wasn't a helper. I wasn't working in the kitchen or doing logistical things. I wasn't, a space holder necessarily. I was a priestess. So I brought the feminine energy. I brought beauty. I washed people's feet when I felt like it. I held people in my lap when they were going through a hard time. I made sure there was always smoke burning and that the space was always pure and feeling good and clean. And it was such a gift to be honored to bring the feminine at a retreat such as this. And so I was on this retreat and we were having a wonderful time. It was about halfway through, on the second night. And and we had fasted that day. And the fast break was fruit. And there was this beautiful platter of fruit. And someone had cut up mangoes and put them on the platter of fruit as well. And there were like a few more mangoes being cut up, and my eyes and my whole body was just drawn to this mango. And I was just taken away. And I literally had to say, okay, I need to take a break and have a moment with this mango. So I took the mango and I went and sat by myself and I'm looking at it and I start to eat it a little bit. And it's like a big piece, like a half of a mango. And I start to eat it a little bit and I start crying. I was blown away by the beauty. I'm like in a retreat space, just like really present with the elements, with myself, with my heartbeat, with my breath. So vulnerable, so sensitive in those moments. And I just felt the spirit of mango just whoosh through my body. And I'm in tears because of how absolutely beautiful it was. It was like the first time I ever ate one. The texture, the color, the shape, how perfectly it fit in my mouth, how easily it went down my throat, how wonderful it felt inside my cheeks and my tongue and around my teeth. And it was just, I couldn't believe it. And I felt so lucky and so blessed and so gifted. And so I'm here crying with the mango, and I had to stop eating it. Like I was so blown away that eating it would have just made me more overwhelmed. So I'm just sitting there like meditating with the mango, like in a kind of like Osho style meditation where you're just in full trance, with this thing. And all of a sudden, I felt a spirit presence with me. And leading up to that, I had been praying to my spirit baby. I had been connecting and welcoming in my spirit baby. And a few days before, I had taken a pregnancy test because I was like a day or two late on my period and it came out negative. So I thought I'm not pregnant. And I was mourning that loss because, every time you have a negative pregnancy test when you're trying to get pregnant, it's like it feels like a loss. So I was mourning that loss and I felt the energy of my spirit baby come through so strongly. And my energy was taken there. My attention was taken to the spirit baby. And I said to my spirit baby, listen, if you don't want to come to earth, I understand. It's hard here. It sucks. I mean, we're living in Israel. Like there's literally we could have alarms go off in any moment where we have to like run for cover because there's just, bombs flying and it's a war zone and like your dad like if we're your family, your dad's going to be Israeli and that's something you're going to have to always deal with and I'm, always connected to this land. So like sorry, and I was like if you don't want to come, it's okay. Like, I'm not going to force you. I'm not going to do intense IVF treatments, like full respect for anybody that does. I knew that was not a part of my path and that I wasn't going to, make, go to the ends of the world to to conceive because I knew that if I was meant to, it would just come to me. So I was like, I won't force you, and if you don't decide to come this lifetime and you don't want to choose me as your mom or, it's not the time for us, that's okay. And I'm accepting that. And this spirit baby's voice came through so strongly in that moment. And he said, "But mom, there's mangoes there." And I looked down at the mango and I was like, "Yeah, there's mangoes here." He's like, "Of course I'm coming." It turns out to be a she, but at the time I really thought it was a boy energy. And I was like, "Yeah, like, of course." And he's like, "Of course I'm coming, mom. Like, there's fucking mangoes. Like, what do you think? Like, and then he told me, like, there's nowhere else in the universe where there's mangoes. There's nowhere else in the universe where there's chocolate. There's nowhere else in the universe where there's sex like there is on Earth as a human. There's no other way of experiencing that rather than coming to Earth." That's what he told me, that we only have mangoes here. Oh my gosh. And it just, everything became clear. Like, I get it. We came to Earth for mangoes. We came to Earth for chocolate and sex, for the sunshine and for the rain, and for the touch of soft flowers and spiky leaves, for the sound of church bells. If you can hear that in the background, there's church bells going on right now. We came here for the smell of roses and jasmine and sandalwood. We came here for the mangoes. And in that moment, I promised my baby that I would get him or her as many mangoes as she freaking wants. Like, I was like, all right, I get it. My job is to help you with this human experience. Your job is to bring the spiritual wisdom. Like, you're going to come from spirit and teach me about the spirit world, especially when you're little. And I'm going to teach you about the human world, but I'm going to teach you the best shit. I'm going to teach you that this is a magical world and that you can have what you want, not from a place of greed or a place of hoarding. No, from a place of generosity, from being the mango tree, from the prosperity and the fulfillment and the fertility and the love and the joy of being human. And yeah, we're going to learn the hardships, just like Siddhartha had to leave the castle and go into the forest to learn about the poor and learn about nature. Like, we're going to do all that too. But I'm going to show you that you can have as many mangoes as you freaking want. And at some point your body's going to be like, "That's enough mangoes for this season. Let's eat oranges for a while until, and then strawberries, and then we'll go back to mangoes when it's time." And I really believe in that balance. I believe that when we allow ourselves all that we want in the best way and we share it generously with those around us, then we always come into balance and there will always be magic. And if we don't allow ourselves, if we cut ourselves off, if we try to prevent ourselves from enjoying fully this life, then we'll always feel like we're in lack and we'll always feel not enough. And so let yourself indulge. Just like a kid will eat as many strawberries as he can until he gets sick. Like, do that sometimes, you guys. Do that. Just go for it. Go all in sometimes. Use all the lotion, like use the entire bottle of fancy oil on your entire body. Pour the entire bottle of soap into the bathtub. Not to do that every single time because you won't want to. You won't want to do that every single time, but do it sometimes. That was a big lesson I got from moving. I had a bunch of like half used amazing products like fancy oils and different kinds of body milks and soaps and shampoos and things like that. And I was so careful about using it and saving it and that like some of them had gone bad already, especially the oils. And and some of them I couldn't take with me. So what am I going to do? Give away a half a bottle or throw it away? No. So what I decided to do was just use it all. Just use it all. Like I had this amazing rose oil, amazing, amazing, amazing rose oil. I couldn't bring it with me. It was too much. And I decided to pour the entire thing all over my body. And it was amazing. It was magical. And so I told myself, I'm going to do that in the future. I'm going to not let it come to this point where I have to use it all or else it went to waste or else it's going to go to waste, to allow myself that indulgence to use it all because I believe that that activates a certain kind of inner wisdom of the remembrance that we live in an abundant and prosperous world and that we are inherently abundant and prosperous. And that's what we're meant to do here. We're meant to create our environment. Like that's what humans are so good at. My friend Leanna, she told me she thinks that one of the human purposes is to be able to shape our environment. So for example, with a mango seed, you have to take off all the flesh, pry the outer shell of the seed open, which is really not easy, and then take the inner soft seed of the mango and put it in like a paper towel or plant it in some soil and keep it wet in order to grow a mango quickly. If you just put the mango in the ground like it is, or put the mango seed in the ground like it is, it's going to take a really long time for that mango to germinate because that's how they're built, But a human can take the mango seed out and speed up the entire process to cultivate his or her environment, to create an environment around us that really supports us, that nourishes us, that brings love, prosperity, joy, beauty, whatever it is, the values that we love and appreciate. And so our human role here is to set up our reality, our environment, so that it's just so nourishing and it supports our growth and our blossoming and our doing the thing that we know how to do best, which is being ourselves. So I promise you, baby, that when you come, I'm going to help set up the environment so that you can do what you do best and be yourself. And I promise to do that for myself too. At the time when I didn't think I was pregnant, I had that promise in my heart, but I was also like, you know what? That's what I'm supposed to do for myself. So any complaining that I have about my life or whatever, it's my job. It's my responsibility to create the environment so it's supportive for me to do what I do best, which is being myself. And now I learned a couple weeks after that, or like a week later, I learned that I'm actually pregnant. And that whole time I was pregnant, and that whole time this baby's coming through, and now she's almost 6 months along, and she's healthy and kicking in there. And I feel her excitement for coming here and eating her very first mango. Thank you for tuning in today. Thank you for going on the mango journey with me. I love you. And I'm sending you so many orange, ray, bright light, sunshine, mango energy. And until next time, bye bye.